Hey folks, this is Kalani. In this video we're going to go over the Dragonflight Alpha Mage changes. They are one of the most recent classes to get a preview of their talent trees, base spells and more, so let's see what's going on with the Mage class in the next World of Warcraft expansion, how it's shaping up so far, what we like, what we don't, and see how many of these wonderful temporary powers were crammed into the talent trees. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. So with the new talent trees and all of the changes with Dragonflight, the base class has been trimmed down quite considerably. Let's look at the base spells every mage will have access to. Everyone gets Arcane Explosion, Arcane Intellect, Blink, Conjure Refreshment, Counterspell, Fire Blast, Frost Nova, Frost Bolt, Polymorph, Portal spells, Slowfall, Teleport spells, and then Time Warp. And that's kind of it. For Frost mages, you do start with Ice Barrier, thanks to the talent tree that will make more sense in just a second. Frost also still has Icicles as their mastery. Fire mages start with Blazing Barrier and Fireball. Fire's mastery is also still Ignite, and Arcane mages start with Arcane Blast, Prismatic Barrier, and their mastery is still the same as well. So for the most part, you don't start with much. Very basic rotational spells, a little bit of utility, and some class flavor. There are also a handful of spells from each school of magic, but let's be real, we'll probably never use the ones that don't fit into our rotation. This also means we don't have any massive changes for the mage class as a whole outside of talents, so if you were hoping for some big revamp or overhaul, you might end up being a little disappointed. Alright, let's jump into the talent trees. That's where all of the fun is these days, starting with the general tree. So all mages basically have access to this left tree, and it's going to be the same no matter what spec you run with. Everyone gets their barrier at the top, and this changes with your spec, so no matter what spec you decide to run with, you're going to have your trusty Absorb Shield. Then Ice Block is in the talent tree. I don't see anyone skipping over that one anytime soon. Cone of Cold is also on this row, along with Shatter, which is an interesting choice for a general tree. The effects of Shatter could still be powerful for Fire and Arcane, but they are going to have much fewer ways to actually set it up. And then we also have Invisibility. Rigid Ice lets Frost Nova withstand more damage before breaking. You can reduce the cooldown of Ice Block up to 40 seconds. That gives us almost a 3-minute Ice Block, which is going to be nice, I guess. Remove Curse is on this row too, and I still don't like Dispels being in the talent tree, but I guess we'll have to get used to it. Successfully Interrupting can reduce the cooldown of Counterspell up to 4 seconds, and then a big movement speed boost when you use Invisibility. Mirror Image made it in here as well. Hasn't really changed. Every spec will also have access to Slow. That could be an interesting option for certain encounters or game types. Spell Steal is in here as well, and then we also have Alter Time. So lots of utility that we're used to having baseline, and it's kind of interesting because this almost forces you to swap talents based on encounter or expected mechanics, right? If you know you can't take advantage of Spell Steal in any given encounter, that's kind of a dead point on certain fights, and then the same thing goes with things like Slow. Moving down, we have a choice between cooldown reduction on Mirror Image when you take direct damage, or a 5% max health heal with the same trigger. 15% health on top of your Mirror Image damage reduction could be quite useful. Cryo Freeze lets you heal up to 90% of your health while in Ice Block. We have another choice talent for Incanter's Flow or Rune of Power, which is a very typical mage choice that we've had to deal with for years now, so nothing new there. Tempest Barrier gives you up to a 9% Absorb Shield when you blink. That's 3 points though, and that's going to be very expensive. And then we also get to choose between Mass Polymorph or Blast Wave. They each definitely have their own uses, so again, very encounter dependent. On the next row, we get up to 4% passive crit chance, increased duration on Frost Nova, reduced magic damage taken, and a 4% passive haste increase. Not the most interesting talents in the world, but there's got to be some filler in here somewhere, I guess. Ice Nova is also in the talent tree, which would give every spec a reliable way of freezing enemies at range, which could help with triggering that Shatter talent point from earlier. You get more barrier cooldown reduction while the barrier is active. We have another choice talent between Shimmer and Ice Flows. Again, a pretty typical choice for the last few expansions with the old talent system. We can pick up another movement speed boost after blinking or using Alter Time, and a talent that reduces the cooldown of Alter Time. That one also resets your blink when you use Alter Time, which is going to be great for some crazy Alter Time shenanigans. And then for the last point, you'd go down the left for increased snare effects, Ring of Frost or Ice Ward, and then that ends with shifting power. In the middle, you get more blink cooldown reduction, greater invisibility, and then time anomaly. This one actually swaps depending on spec, as you might expect. So for Frost, you get Icy Veins, Fingers of Frost or Time Warp. For Arcane, you get Arcane Surge, Clear Casting or Time Warp. And then for Fire, you get Combustion, a Fire Blast Charge or Time Warp. Then finally, on the right hand side, your barriers heal you for some of the damage taken. Dragon's Breath is also all the way down here, which is kind of disappointing really. And then the last talent is Meteor, so every mage spec will have access to Meteor as well. The general tree has some interesting options and some weird ones too. Giving everyone Shatter is going to be very hit or miss depending on the kind of content you like to run and how well you can set it up, and then some options also kind of don't fit into your spec's theme, which is fine if you want to be that well-rounded mage, but it's going to feel a bit weird throwing down a Fire Meteor if you want to be a Frost mage and only use Frost spells. There are also a lot of 3-point talents in this tree, which makes moving through it kind of weird. If you hit a 3-point talent that you want, it's going to take 3 talent points to move beyond that, so you can actually run out of talent points very quickly. That also means you can't really afford to take too many 3-pointers, you simply don't have enough talent points to spend. Some of those 3-pointers also block you from progressing through the tree while giving you very little in return, so you have to spend 3 points in a place you might not actually really want to. So navigating this tree and the way it's set up and getting the good stuff that you want might be more annoying than some other trees at the moment. It's going to be much easier to get that effect and see that frustration if you actually work through it yourself, so I'll be sure to include a link down below in the description to the Wowhead talent calculator so you can tinker about with it for yourself. Let's move on to the specs, starting with the fire tree. The top point is Pyroblast. Makes sense really, you can't have a fire build without Pyroblast. Then you can move down into Fire Blast and Flame Strike, again staple fire mage abilities. On the left you can pick up Scorch, then Hot Streak, as well as improved Flame Strike. There's a choice node for Fire Starter or Searing Touch. It's a shame we can't take both of those at the same time now, isn't it? You can upgrade Fireball for the stacking crit chance, upgrade Fire Blast to always crit, and pick up Conflagration as well. Having spell upgrades in the tree feels kind of odd, but also kind of fitting, if that makes sense. Like, working through this as you level for the first time would be fun and interesting when you get to those upgrades because they significantly change those abilities, but because we've been playing with those changes forever, it feels a bit cheap to then have to spend a talent point to get it back, but that's more of a problem with the talent in general. I imagine if they expand the talent in the future, that kind of talent point would be quite powerful. There is also improved Scorch, giving you even more execute damage while spamming Scorch in that window, Critical Mass for some extra crit chance for all spells and even more crit from gear. Cauterize is right smack bang in the middle of the tree, we all know how many times that saved our lives, that's a required point almost. You also pick up Flame On for the extra Fire Blast charge, as well as a beefed up Blazing Barrier. Phoenix Flames has made its way back into the talents as well, Combustion is also in the tree as you would expect, and Flame Patch is on that same row too. Then it starts getting busy. We have a lot of stuff here. We have an extra charge for Phoenix Flames, a choice between From the Ashes, passive mastery while Phoenix Flames is on cooldown, or guaranteed crits for Phoenix Flames and Dragon's Breath. Firemind is back too, giving you a quick int proc every time you use Hot Streak. There's another choice talent for Tempered Flames, reduced casting time on Pyro, increased crit chance but lower combustion duration, so a hard casting Pyro build? That could be interesting. Or you can get a huge boost of mastery during combustion and it lasts for 2 seconds longer, which, let's be real, is probably going to be the main pick here. Blaster Master is back as well, they're bringing everything back apparently. Fire Blast grants you mastery. You can pick between Flame Patch proccing Living Bombs, or a free Meteor cast after you throw enough fireballs, and then Living Bomb rounds out this very long row. Then if we go down to the left side we get Phoenix Reborn, little bursts of damage and cooldown reduction for Phoenix Flames, that leads into Pyromaniac to give you chain hot streaks. On the left you get some extra damage on Pyro above 70% and below 30% health targets, which leads down into Sun King's Blessing, so we bring that effect forward as well. In the middle we have Tinder. If you haven't cast Fireball for 8 seconds, the next one deals more damage and casts faster, and Wildfire, giving you more ignite damage, more crit during combustion, and the party crit buff as well. That ends with Fiery Rush, faster recharge rate on Phoenix Flames during combustion, or Kindling, giving you the standard combustion cooldown reduction when you crit. Over on the right side, Ignite deals more damage outside of combustion, and Fire Blast spreads Ignite during combustion. Pyroclasm gives your hot streaks a chance to massively increase the damage of your next hard cast pyro. Fevered Incantation gives you more crit damage when you crit. And the very last point is Fire Frenzy. When Hot Streak activates, you have a chance to cause all pyros and flame strikes to have no cast time and be guaranteed crits for 5 seconds. So you can spam those pyroblasts. You're going to know for sure when the mages get this proc. All in all, I feel like Fire Mages got a lot of their very powerful effects from the last few expansions. Scorch Executes, Master Blaster, Flame On, Phoenix Flames, Fire Mine, Sun Kings, and Pyroclasm, along with a lot of other talent options you would expect to see. You can also take quite a lot of these things together, whereas in the past you had to pick and choose way more. I'm actually pretty excited to play around with this, and my Mage has been on the shelf for quite a while now. Let's move on to Frost and get through these talents real quick. Remember that we can still pick up Shatter and Ice Nova in the general tree. We kick things off with Ice Lance, Frozen Orb, Blizzard, and Fingers of Frost, probably all of which will get picked up. Then we also have Flurry, another must-have, Shatter rank 2, that's interesting, giving you even more crit chance on the Shatter effect, Brain Freeze is here also, and Winter's Chill. So there's your standard Flurry combo. We have Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Arctic Piercing, causing Frostbolt crits to empower Ice Lance. On the next row, you can pick up Ebon Bolt or Frozen Touch. You can pick between Lonely Winter or Summon Water Elemental, Improved Blizzard for the Frozen Orb cooldown reduction, or Focused Frost for Frozen Orb single target damage. And then we also have Bone Chilling, so you can now actually pick up Bone Chilling alongside Lonely Winter. We actually have an empty talent here, which is one of the first empty talents we've seen for the trees that have been pushed through, so keep an eye on that spot. We never know what it could turn into. We can get a second charge of Flurry, some extra damage on Frostbolt and empowered Ice Lances against frozen targets. Snowstorm gives Blizzard a chance to increase the damage of Cone of Cold. Flash Freeze increases icicle damage and gives you even more chances for Fingers of Frost. And Frigid Shattering gives you even more damage to frozen and rooted targets. On the next row we have Glacial Assault, giving you a chance for free Icy Comets. Icy Veins is in here as well as Ice 9. Frostbolt and Flurry have a chance to generate 15 or 30 icicles. That could be really cool when you get that proc. I'm going to play around with that one for sure. On the next row we have Comet Storm, Freezing Rain for that extra AoE damage, Icy Propulsion for some Icy Veins cooldown reduction, Ray of Frost is in here as well, and I wonder if I'll actually see more use with more flexible talent tree setups. And then there's also Splitting Ice. I hope this is a bit easier to fit in. I always loved Splitting Ice. And then the last few down here are Fractured Frost. Frostbolt has a chance to hit extra targets, a longer duration on Icy Veins. Icy Veins instantly grants a charge of Brain Freeze and Fingers of Frost. Chain Reaction is back as well, and then we have another talent that causes Frozen Ice Lances to generate icicles. And then the last points are Cold Front, 30 Frostbolts or Flurries gives you free Frozen Orbs. There's a choice between Freezing Winds, constant procs during Frozen Orbs, or Slick Ice, giving you ramping Frostbolt damage. There's also Thermal Void making a comeback, as well as Glacial Spike, two talents you would definitely expect to see down here. I think this follows along the same lines of Fire, with a lot of what you would expect to be included. I love the idea of mass icicles, especially with some of the synergy talents that could work with, but all in all, I don't expect Frost to change too much gameplay-wise, at least for things like raid bosses. Just some extra effects and bonus procs thrown into the typical Flurry combos. And let's round things out with the Arcane tree. Arcane Barrage is right at the top, so that's standard, and so is Arcane Missiles. From there we can pick up Rule of Threes and Clear Casting, important passives for sure. Then we have Arcane Familiar, Improved Arcane Missiles, Improved Arcane Explosion, and Impetus. Arcane Blast has a chance to generate an extra Arcane Charge. Now I skipped over this middle one because it's actually very important. Arcane Surge. This is going to replace Arcane Power, I guess, and change up how your burst window works as an Arcane Mage. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown with a short cast time. Expend all current mana to annihilate your target and nearby enemies, dealing damage based on mana spent. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. For the next 12 seconds, your mana regen is increased by 450% and spell damage is increased by 10%. So I guess the idea is to fire this off with high mana, burst for the massive regen window, and then maintain high mana until you can do it all over again. We'll have to see how this works with other passives and procs and utility spells we can pick up, but it looks like Arcane is potentially going to change quite a bit more than the other specs. On the next row we have Arcane Tempo. Consuming Arcane charges grants you haste for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. We have Improved Arcane Barrage for the extra targets per Arcane charge effect. Improved Barrier to reduce magic damage taken. Mana Adept to cause Arcane Barrage to refund mana. Nether Precision increases the damage of Arcane Blast after using clear casting. And Amplification, a clear casted Arcane Missiles fires extra missiles. We also have Presence of Mind for some instant arcane blasts, Foresight, which lets you move while casting after standing still for 10 seconds, Enlightened, which gives you extra damage or mana regen depending on your mana levels, Arcane Power, which boosts your Arcane Surge buff, more Arcane Barrage damage for each target hit, Slipstream, clear casting allows you to cast missiles while moving or cast evocation while moving, and improved clear casting, letting it stack up to 2 additional times. On the next row we have Nether Tempest, Chrono Shift, Touch of the Magi, so that's going to be in here as well, Supernova, and Reverberate. I don't think any of those talents really changed that much, so let's just move on. Evocation is all the way on the left, which is probably a required pickup still, surely. This next talent increases your Mastery Effectiveness for even more damage. Arcane Echo deals extra damage to targets when Touch of Magi is active. Arcane Bombardment gives you more Arcane Barrage damage on targets below 50% health. Illuminated Thought gives you a higher chance to proc clear casting. Conjure Mana Gem is in the talents as well, on the opposite side to Evocation no less, so I guess you have to choose how you want to get your mana back. I think I know which route I would go. There's a choice talent back on the left side for a shorter Evocation cooldown, or a big intellect buff whenever you channel Evocation. Arcane Orb is down towards the bottom row, so getting that will be a big investment. Radiant Spark is also down here, giving you access to a stacking damage increase debuff. Concentration gives Arcane Blast a chance to cause your next clear casting to not be consumed, so free casts for days, and then there's a talent that gives your mana gem a small spell power buff when you use it. On the very bottom, we have a choice between 1 additional charge on Arcane Orb, or 15 Arcane Missiles fires a free Arcane Orb. Harmonic Echo gives Radiant Spark an AoE component, and Arcane Harmony gives Arcane Missiles a stacking buff to Arcane Barrage damage. So, some interesting changes while keeping a lot of the same as well. I will be interested to see which way players decide to go for this Arcane tree, and how they take to the Arcane Power to Arcane Surge change. It seems weird to burn all your mana in one go with one spell, but if that spell hits hard enough, that could be incredibly satisfying. Full mana Arcane Mages are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Well, maybe. We'll have to see how they shape up against the other 2 specs with everything else in play. Overall, mages are going to have a lot of popular options from previous expansions, whether it be from old Azerite armor, legendary effects, tier set effects. You know, we've had a lot of temporary powers over the years, and it looks like a lot of the good ones are making their way back in for the Dragonflight talent trees, so a lot of mages will probably be quite happy with that. I think the weakest part of this current showing is definitely that general tree. I imagine you can get to the points you really want, but those 3 pointers are definitely going to slow you down. But remember, this is still early alpha. This is the first time we're seeing the mage talents, so be sure to give your feedback if you feel strongly about one thing or another. We have seen quite a few changes to other class talent trees, especially due to feedback, so it looks like they're actually listening this time. We have a lot of hunter changes coming. I think there are some shaman changes planned as well, and Invoker has actually had a few changes too. If you don't like something, say it. If you really like something, say that too. Every little helps with this kind of thing, and you never know what could change between now and when Dragonflight goes live. But that's our first look at the mage talent trees and changes coming in Dragonflight. What do you think from what you've seen so far? What are you most impressed with or excited about? And is there anything in here that you are disappointed with? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and 10 who subscribed on Twitch. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I'll see you next time.